So last class we started with formula fields. So we also looked at straightforward formula fields and also cross-reference fields and some uh, mathematical calculated fields for calculating discounts and those stuff. And then we started working on page layouts, basically cleaning up the white spaces and also moving the fields top to bottom, left to right on the tab order. And also we checked creating how to create sections and move the fields and categorizing the fields, those stuff. And then
Srikanth, I guess Kiritika got disconnected. Not sure if you have to accept it.
Where did that go? June. I don't see a request from her.
Okay, yeah, I just saw the message, so I thought, let me.
Oh, okay. She joined. I think I saw her join.
She said there's some network issue and then she got disconnected.
Okay. If she's trying to join, I think we should get a message here. Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's see. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, let's get back. Yeah, we also started looking into Lightning App Builder. So with all Lightning experience, this came pretty new. New in the sense maybe 2 years back. So not only with page layouts, we can also control the layouts using uh, the Lightning App Builder. So we can create record pages. The one that we created was record pages. If you recall, so we also use this maybe 4 classes before when we are making some changes to the home page. So we added some Lightning, the reports, dashboards. Just the reports. So we added some reports at that time. At that time also we use the same thing, Lightning App Builder. And so we also talked about a little bit of performance issues, how to measure performance, how to check the page load times, and what are the ways to avoid performance bottlenecks when we are loading the page. And then we looked at the record types. Basically, if the same record, and if we want to give different experience for the fields or pick list values, so that's where we use record types. And the page layouts, we can create multiple page layouts, and we can assign multiple page layouts to profiles. But if there is a need for pick list value, if there is a need to show different pick lists and all, we need to go for record types. And finally, we looked at validation rules. And the validation rule main thing is the formula, the condition. So the condition is always either true or false. So if it is true, the validation rule will fire and stop the record. And if the condition is false, basically it does nothing. And when we are firing the validation rule, so basically we have a few options whether to show the error message right on the record on the top, or right by the field where we want the user to correct something. So those are a few things that we looked at, and we ended the class there. Any questions on last class? If not, we can move on. So this one is managing data. So typically, this is also a very common use case where you see when whether you need to load the data or delete the data, maybe update the data, those kind of things. And especially when we are implementing a first time Salesforce, you need to load a lot of data. So basically any business may have something to start with. Let's say if they're on SAP CRM, or maybe if they're on Oracle, or maybe some other system, Microsoft Dynamics. And we need to load the data, accounts, contacts. Those are anyway, so any customer to start with, they have to have that data. So that one in the first class we talked about, that is called master data. And sometimes they may want to bring in some transactional data also. Let's say they have some old system or legacy system, and they're already capturing some opportunities, leads there. So any business, they want to bring the data, and nobody wants to start with fresh, basically from the data point of view. We need to bring the data from external systems. We also will have a lot of use cases where we need to send the data out. Let's say there is a analytics system, and we do all the reporting out of that system. So from Salesforce, we might need to send the data out. And those are the things we will talk about in this one. So Salesforce has a lot of options to do either imports, exports, and all. And also, as we discussed, Salesforce, they expose APIs pretty much for every object that by default, whenever we create an object, so it exposes the API, so that if there is a API, it is from using REST or bulk protocols, they can get the data. I mean, either extract or import the data. And out of the box, Salesforce has this thing called import wizard. And if you have any data, pretty much either standard objects or custom objects, if it is less than 50,000 records that you want to load into Salesforce, you can use this guide. So we will look at this one in detail. And then there is data loader. So this is a client that you can install on the local machine, and you can potentially load the data. And usually if it is more than 50,000 records, and it can load up to 5 million records. If the volume is high, so potentially would go to data loader. And if we want to do any automations, like by scripting every night, you want to extract data, you want to import data without manual intervention, so you can still use data loader, and you can write some scripting, and you can do that. You can use it for loading or extracting. Data.com is more like I don't know very well about this one. Typically, when you Salesforce also has some data. So if you want to buy some accounts or contacts from Salesforce, so you can leverage that one. Let's say you have a business or a marketing business or something, and you need to know some account contacts, basically for marketing sake. Potentially you can use that one. I am not very familiar with it. Maybe if you are interested, maybe you can Google about that little bit. And then the mass transfers. Sometimes business, I mean employees, as you may have seen or observed in Salesforce so far, every time we create a record, on the record there is one field called owner. So that will be assigned if we don't do anything, so the owner will be the creator. If we have any rules, potentially you can change the owner to somebody else. And let's say one employee is leaving the company, and he is or she is managing a set of accounts. And once that employee leaves the company, we need to make sure all those accounts will be transferred to another employee, so that he will take over managing those accounts. So those are, we will also look at that. So Salesforce has some inbuilt features out of the box features that we can leverage to transfer the ownership of those records. And then backing up data. So for every system, we want to back up data. So on periodic basis, you want to store the data somewhere else. So if any disaster happens, you can always go back to your backup storage and retrieve it and basically put it back into Salesforce. That is, I mean, you metadata and also data. So and sometimes you may have some needs to delete records, lot of records from the system. Let's say you do some data load and you notice that there is a problem. At that time, you want to delete the data. And typically, whenever you delete the data, Salesforce would keep it in recycle bin for about 15 days. After that, it will basically delete it entirely from the system. So we talked about import wizard, data loader, and so there is a tool called Workbench, and that one is also a very handy tool for developers and admins to access the data. I will show about that. And since Salesforce exposes APIs for everything, potentially any tool that you want to use or you are familiar with, you can use it to connect Salesforce. And Postman is one of, I think, very commonly used tool to extract API, I mean, to work with the APIs. I'll show a little bit about Postman also. And then the data loader, basically, if we want, I said we can automate the data loader using some scripts. So that's where the CLIQ would come in handy. It is a little bit of old technology, but still, if there is a need, so we can still use that one. And so I am always talking about the APIs. So Salesforce has a lot of APIs. So basically, SOAP API, REST API, and then there is bulk API. And if we want to load a lot of data, so typically we need to go for bulk APIs. And so with bulk, you can submit a big file, and so Salesforce will take that into server and basically it process the data, and you can come back and check that one. With the data loader and also you can do multiple, I mean, either ways, either you can submit bulk or you can submit the synchronous loads. Synchronous loads means when you submit it, you have to wait for the result to come back, and you will see the results and while it is happening. With bulk, so you have to go check on the server side. And then Salesforce also has recently, I think last year they came up with bulk V2. So V1 and V2 are just nothing but versions. So this is more faster API and better performance and all. And this is the latest API from them. So let's look at in the system. So what are these things? So let's start with import wizard. So as I said, import wizard, you can access it from the Salesforce itself on the browser, and you can submit a file. Let's see.
Quick question.
Yeah.
You said for mass transfer, if a person is leaving the company, then you transfer it to another person who takes over, right? Is that something that is done very often? Like whenever anybody leaves, you have to transfer the ownership. Is that how it works, or can we still work on the record with the person leaving the company?
No, I mean usually when we say the owner is the most responsible person for that account. So let's say there is an account. This account, most of the time when we are working on this account, some transactional data and all, when we create master detail relationship. Let's say if you want to create some leads or opportunities, and we always say this opportunity should also be owned by so and so, whoever is the owner. Let's say this Phil Smith. If at all we create any opportunities, the opportunities typically would be created by Phil Smith. And so let's say he created maybe 1 million opportunity, or like that, maybe multiple opportunities. So he has a pipeline of 10 million that he is working on. If we don't transfer the ownership, the new person, I mean the ABC account, whatever this guy, nobody is going to check on that one. So typically, any sales scenario, you have to assign somebody so that they will be sole responsible for that account. And when we change the ownership, potentially all the transactional data also we change the ownership. So that way, that new person is going to take over those 10 million thing. Otherwise, we will lose all that transactional stuff. There will be big impact to the business if we don't do those. Yeah, to answer your question, any business would want to have one particular person as a responsible person for that account, and there will be supporting cash to help him.
Okay, so this is something that often that is done very often.
Yeah, very often. I mean, employees leaving the company is very common scenario, right? So, I mean, in sales side, it is even very frequent. IT side, it may not happen that much, but sales side, people move here and there. I mean, internally also, let's say there is a sales guy, and the sales rep may become sales manager, and at that time, when they refill his position or her position, basically the new person should own those accounts. Otherwise, there will be a lot of impact to the business.
So this is something an admin does, or even somebody or admin gives control to somebody, because this is something maybe that happens very often.
Yeah, usually most of the companies, big enterprises, they will have automation. So someone will say, okay, hey, maybe for this account, let's say, typically the way how they assign accounts to individuals, there is a California. So basically anything that is San Jose, something they create territories or something. And so all the San Jose accounts should be owned by Phil Smith. Or maybe they say, okay, all California accounts that are also industry type biotechnology should go to some John Smith kind of thing. So that's how they do. Immediately when John Smith left the company, and some Josh comes in immediately. So there will be some determination on the user also, saying, okay, this user should be handling so and so district or so and so industry related one. So based on that, there will be some Apex jobs that we write, and those will take care of the assignment of owner.
Yeah, and Srikanth, so you spoke about Apex code and stuff, right? Is this something that an admin does, or
Usually admin won't write code. I mean, developers would write code. What admin can do, admin can write flows, and basically you can trigger the flows, and that way also, I mean, if it is low volume, admin can do write flows, and those can be leveraged. If it is high volume thing, so potentially it is Apex, and most likely for those kind of scenarios, we would prefer Apex.
okay, thanks.
Sure. Let's go. Yeah, so let's go back under setup. Yeah, let's first check the file. So in the charter, let's go. And we have seen that it is coming from Connor, and so basically,
I'm sorry, I mean, so you spoke about the workflow, right? Workflows, right? You'll be touching that topic later.
Yeah,
right?
so that is the next one. I think, yeah, next one is automation stuff.
Okay, right.
So basically here, Connor McKay, he's asking, could you please import this list of leads from our last North American trade show? And I mean, typically the way the marketing happens. So we will have some marketing booths open at some shows and all, and whoever comes and visit our booth, so we capture their information, and typically we want to load that information and so that we can hand it over to sellers. So that's the scenario, and this is very common for any company that is doing business. So they have to meet their customer, and while they meet the customers, they have to get some notes from the customer, what are they interested in. So let's say if they're interested in some motors or maybe some information, so we cannot on the trade shows we cannot handle much, so we can simply take the information from them, and then we will tell them, okay, here someone from our company will reach out to you. That kind of things will happen on the trade shows, but later we need to load the data, and we need to make sure those will be sent to the right people so that they can work on those. So let's download this guy. I think I already downloaded this one. So we got this file, and this is how the file would look like. So there is a first name, last name, email. So basically some customer and contact, and what is the company they are representing, and also what is the address, and the information, the rest of the information. And the first thing that we need to do, so before loading the data quality is very important. So we have to check, okay, whether everything is fine here or not. I mean, just by glancing, and actually, so in the thing they mentioned that there are some typos and all, so we need to fix that one. I mean, otherwise we are going to introduce a lot of unwanted or data, or maybe some misrepresentation or misrepresented data. So that's the thing. So I mean, if you see here, the California, so they maintained Cali, those things. Basically, we need to clean that one, and also on the rating. Typically, Salesforce on the back end, this is a pick list field, and we would expect either warm, cold, or hot lead, warm lead, or the cold lead. And if it is hot lead, typically in any business, first we will handle those hot leads, and then we move on to warm lead, and then cold lead. That's how any business would work. And before we loading the data, so we just need to clean this. So let's clean up this one a little bit. I mean, if it is, I mean, typically you can, however, I mean, you can apply some filters. Most probably you are, if you are familiar with Excel, you can find all those junk data easily. So, oops. So now you can simply correct the data. And, so let's remove this guy. So again with rating, so again apply filter. So those are problematic ones. So typically ice cold, cold lead. I mean, just giving some ideas how you do. So basically, there are cold leads, warm leads, and hot leads. And there was, I mean, we just did a little bit of data cleanup. Once we do that, basically, let's save this file. I believe it will take Excel, but let's convert into CSV. So that is most common format. So now let's go back to Salesforce.
The currency is missing from few records. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, just an idea. So what am I missing?
Currency?
Oh, okay, yeah. So if it is, I mean, if they don't mention, because our default company currency is USD, it will take that one.
Okay.
So now, so you go here, the import wizard. This is the one that you can use. And I mean, I don't know about other systems, but Salesforce definitely is a lot better in this regard. If whenever you want to integrate with other systems, it is so easy with Salesforce. But with SAP and other systems, you have to write a lot of programs and all. It is a very painful exercise for just the data load part. But here it is very straightforward. So here basically just go down. So you just launch wizard. And so now since we are loading leads, we just need to say lead. And since we are loading new records, select new. And so if at all we want to match the records, potentially we can say I want to match. So if we go back to our file, so there is email address, and potentially if there is any name or some email, so potentially we can match with that one. And, let's match with email. And assign leads. Basically, when we are loading these leads, so what kind of I mean the source on the lead field, so what do we want to select? That is the trade show. And if at all we want to do any assignment rules and all, so if we have on the back end, if we create any assignment rules, like if it is zip code so and so, maybe go to this employee, that kind of thing. And those assignment rules we can do. If we want to apply those, basically you can select those here. Okay, so yeah, for now I think we are okay. So basically, if at all we want to assign any record type also, you can do that. And now since ours is, we already saved that as a CSV file, so we can simply select our file. So these should be fine. So we can move on. I mean, there are other options also. So now our Excel file has so many columns. We want to map those fields, basically which field goes where. So because it already has the matching names, Salesforce automatically match those. So here it is Salesforce object, and this is the CSV file. CSV file has this header column, and the first row is the one that it takes. And the address line one, they are not able to map it, and state province also. Let's see. So address line one. So typically, if you say map, potentially what is this address line one? Let's see. Okay, so street. This we are mapping to Salesforce field. So now, I mean, we are selecting Salesforce field. Basically, address line one. What are we mapping to on the object basically? And so basically, owner field. Let's map it to name. On the name field. Oh, actually, owner field has owner column. And then on the currency, read currency. Once we do that, I mean, all we have to do is just move on. So we map the fields, and it says, okay, we mapped 16 fields, and so basically unmapped fields, there is nothing. And now basically we hand it off to the server, and server, I mean, we can go back and check the things. So
What if you don't map?
if you don't map, basically it doesn't load the records to any fields. Basically it will fail. I mean, if you miss some fields, even though you have in the Excel you have it, so those fields it will ignore.
Okay, the records will go in, but the
Yeah, I mean,
field
if
has not
you
been mapped will not go, right?
yeah, if you don't map any field, potentially at that time it won't load anything, because it says, okay, and yeah, I can't. There is no mapping exist. And here you see the operation is upset because we selected by matching some fields, and so here it processed 49 fields, and nothing failed, and basically there is no retry or anything. Straightforward, it was able to load the records. And so here you can see the result. So it basically gives you a lead ID, and if you take this guy, if you go back to Salesforce,
Upsert is insert or update.
yeah, if it is able to find a matching record, it is able to update. If it doesn't, potentially it will insert. So this is the one, Betty Babcock or Body Babcock. So I mean, as you see here, so it was able to assign to the lead owner. If we didn't map it, potentially this record would be owned by me because I did the data load. And it looks like either we did not clean the file properly, so there is this guy still there, Ice Cube. I think we changed everything to, I don't know why that one is still there. Let's see. The file looks okay, or maybe I picked a wrong file. One thing or other happened. We have some data quality issues here. And so basically, okay, this is created some time ago. Actually, it is it is updated. Let me open that Excel one more time. Yeah. So here, if you see, there are multiple columns. Whether it is successful or not, it is successful. So did it create? It did not create. Basically, it updated that record. So that's why if you see here, it was created 11:15, and it is simply updated that record. Whereas if we take this record, the fourth one, so this is a record created today 9:34 p.m. And so even though it is created by me, so because of that offset and also matching by email address, based on that, so it was able to find that user. So whoever is the user, and it assigned the lead owner, and the rating, it assigned the email field, all that stuff, and the address and all. So if we don't map the field, address field, so this field would have been empty. So that's the data import wizard. Sorry,
While importing, it matches with the email address that because we have selected that. And
yeah.
if it finds a hit, it'll update it. If it doesn't find a hit, it'll insert it.
That is for the lead owner, and even for the record also, based on the criteria how we define. So typically in any business scenarios, we create something called external ID field. And the external ID, I mean, let me go back here. Account object may have. We can also create custom fields. So let's see if this one is external ID. Yeah, so this one is not an external ID. Let's see if there is anything. So okay, let's create some external ID field just for the for showing. So let's say this field is called the external ID. Let's take that guy. So let's say we give this one as 255 character length, doesn't matter. So this is the external ID. So if we select this one, and typically in integration scenario, so all the systems should be having one unique ID. Either it is I mean SAP or Salesforce. If we have multiple systems, every system will have their own IDs. Like when we see this guy, so this is Salesforce specific ID, the OOQ ID, and we cannot say other systems, okay, you take this guy, and maybe whenever I say OOQ this number, fourth number, and maybe pinpoint to this record, so they cannot do that. That's why every system, I mean company will have one ID, and that ID generated at a central place, and based on that, when we pass this external ID field, so let's call this one, instead of account ID, let's call this guy as external ID itself. So on company wide, whenever we say okay, external for this account ID, whenever, I mean, since we are creating on the account object, so whenever we create account ID, and we also assign some number to this thing, so like ACC 1234 kind of thing, and either SAP or Salesforce or maybe even some other system comes in, and it is a company specific number, not the software specific number. So everyone should know what exactly it means. If we say ABC 123 or A 123456, so is Pepsi, and every company or every software will have that ID, and they must be knowing this, that is Pepsi. So that's how that's the importance of external ID. And when we load the data, let's say if we want to update this account, maybe some other system updated this account Pepsi address to something, and if they want to let Salesforce know, okay, hey, I updated this account address to some street address, different address, and immediately based on that ID, they send that information that based on this external ID. And now it is Salesforce job to find that external ID and go to that particular record and update the information. So that's how that upsert and update information based on this external ID would work in the system.
Srikanth, just trying to reiterate. So in Salesforce, every record has a Salesforce ID, right? And then we in Salesforce, we also create this external ID while creating the object, so that there is a mapping between the Salesforce ID and external ID.
Yeah.
Right. And then whenever we try to import data from any of the external systems, the external system would also use the same external ID that Salesforce has created. So this is kind of a identifier to say, to figure out the right record, correct?
That's correct. And sometimes, I mean, the number generation, sometimes let's say Salesforce is a gold client for that particular one. Let's say leads are only generated in Salesforce, but other system need that information. At that time, Salesforce can generate that external ID. And when Salesforce is giving out that information, so Salesforce will also pass that external ID along with the rest of the fields. So then they will create that external ID with same value that Salesforce is passing. Let's say order, whereas usually orders will not be created in Salesforce, and let's say it is created in either Oracle or SAP. At that time, when they are creating order, they generate that order number O123456. And but when Salesforce is consuming that information, they send that information along with that external ID. So then Salesforce would also have that. And let's say if Salesforce updated that one, and it is easy for Salesforce to send that ID for that record, and they can update it.
Yeah, I will just need some more clarity. So if Salesforce is sending it, you are saying that Salesforce would generate the external ID so that they let the other people know, and the other external systems would use that as a reference.
Yeah.
If an external system is passing data to Salesforce, so the external system would generate the external ID and pass it on to Salesforce. Is that how it is?
Yeah. I mean, whoever is the source, they generate the ID typically.
Okay.
And the target system just consume that information. But sometimes target will also update when you are updating, and you will have to pass the information to source at that time. I mean, always the communication happens with that external ID.
So once you establish it, everything else going forward will be based on it.
Yeah. So that's the data import wizard. I mean, very straightforward one. So if you have less than 50,000 records, you can use it. Or if you have, let's say, maybe 100,000 or 250,000, you can still use it, but you have to fire it 5 times. So, or multiple times. So,
and you mentioned about assignment rules while doing the going through the screens, right? Is that something that we would cover later?
Yeah, we would cover those guys. Basically, I mean, everything is under setup. If we go here, assignment rules. Basically, for case and leads, we have these assignment rules. Typically, you create a rule. Yeah, we will go through those later.
Yeah, as long as you have it somewhere in the
curriculum,
it's fine.
I mean, these are more of advanced admin stuff, but when we have time, we can go through it. But I mean, all the trailhead stuff, they have that all that information. Typically, either you create queues or maybe based on some parameter. So let's say lead city equals to let's say California, or maybe let's call this one as state. If the field is there. State province. So if it is CA, and we say if fill is the user that should be taking these guys. I mean, these are the rule entries. Let's say Alan Wang, basically she should be taking it. So here we will say, okay, this is the order number. And so we save this guy. So basically now, whenever we create a lead, and so it will go through this guy, and basically it will assign that user to that particular thing. So this is the one we can leverage. So now if we do import wizard, basically under lead assignment rule, now you will see this lead assignment rules, one of those, and you can select that guy. And as you are loading this data, it will basically look at this assignment rule. And if the state is CA, so immediately it will assign the user to that particular lead as a owner. Yeah, you can try these. So straightforward ones. Yeah. So now the data loader. So I asked you to install this one because there is a. I mean, earlier it was not asking us to install JDK and all. Now it also asks us to install the Java. If you don't have the right JDK, so it will ask you to install it. And once you have it, I mean, the data loader is the client tool, so you have to install it on your local machine, and then you can kick off this process. So I already installed it. Let me go back to Salesforce Arc. We need to get that file.
Rikan, one more question regarding the
Yeah.
input. So we imported some data, right? Where you said wherever the currency is blank, you said it will be a default. It will pick up the default value.
Yeah.
So is that something that we would set, or based on whatever the default value is for the field, it will set it?
I believe every object will have that information. By default, it will assign that one. Let's check that one. So it is by default, that's the nature. I mean, this is another thing, a very handy tool, even for admins to access the data. Let's say select ID. I think.
How did you navigate to here?
Yeah, I will show you one second. Yeah. So as you see here, so we have 47 records. Some of those you said we did not select anything, right? So by default, it picked up the company currency. So yeah, to show you how we got that one, basically this is a Chrome extension. I think the name of this one is Salesforce Optimizer or something. Let's see what is the name of, yeah, Salesforce Inspector. If you Google it, Salesforce Inspector, I mean, this is very useful tool. Pretty much I use it, I mean, whenever I need to deal with data. Uh, yeah, from Chrome store, you can install it. And once you install it automatically, so whenever you go to any record, so let's say if I go back to this record, view in Salesforce, and immediately on the right hand side you will see little icon. Yeah, see this small icon here. So that's the one that came because of that guy, the Salesforce Inspector. And you can just go to data import, I mean export. And actually this one also can do some data loads for us. I mean, since Salesforce is API based, you can use whatever the tool that can be used for API access, you can use it. I mean, it is very easy to work with Salesforce, especially with data. I mean, we looked at data import wizard. Now this is another thing to access data. So the Salesforce Inspector, and see here there is this data import, and here you can say what operation you want to do. So whether you want to do insert or update and those stuff, and we say what object, sorry, what operation, what object, and then your CSV file, and then I mean, I never use this guy. Potentially you can copy paste your data and then you can load the data. Actually, let's give it a try. So let's take.
It has limitations on the record count.
Yeah, I mean, I never used it. So, but I use it for queries most of the time. Mostly, I think. Yeah, let's try query parts. So actually, I need. Okay, I should have used the Excel. Let me reload this one more time. CSV. Let's simply load a few records. So field mapping, first name, yeah, because there is space, it is not able to find it. Let's see. Now those fields. Yeah, I mean, these are some of those problems. I mean, the tool is not that helpful tool, looks like. Let's try to import.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, like, this is basically another way to get
Yeah,
data.
yeah. I mean, there are multiple ways. So now, if we go back to Salesforce, I mean, just to export the data, I mean, to see. Yeah, I mean, still, I think that one failed. So it didn't load because of some issue, I think. So now let's.
Yeah, if you're, I have a few more
Yeah,
questions.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So, when you import the data using a data wizard, say if some records fail, like you were showing the results, right? Like, we were
Yeah.
going through the results where it says uh, pass, fail, I mean, like true, false,
Mhm.
and then there was something called error. So
Yeah.
if something error out, like what do we do? Like,
Yeah. Typically, the result file. I mean, we need to, let's see, the request will have your original file, and I think you need to find which record failed, and based on that record, you have to potentially resubmit it. You have to fix it, and you have to resubmit it.
so, so we'll have to, between the two request and result, we have to map it, figure out what is wrong, and then delete the rest.
Yeah,
And
I mean, the import wizard, I mean, I will show you with the data loader. You have better thing, but here looks like we may have to do our own mapping stuff. And with data loader, basically it writes that error file, and immediately you should be able to access that one. I mean, you can, there is one column they just add here for your input file, and basically it also throws the error, what is the error, and that one basically you should be able to fix it on your own and fixing the data. Yeah, we will look at it just in a minute.
okay.
Yeah, basically, though, I mean, those are the way places where you decide which tool you want to use. So let's go back to this chatter stuff. Okay, so she is asking us to load account data. So let's use this guy, and let's try to use data loader to load this one. And there are multiple things. Basically, this is the account name that she gave, and she wanted to update this information, and also some the billing state information. See, yeah, let's download this information. Let's download this file first, and again one Excel file that she gave. So this is the file that she gave basically, and also what she is saying here. I have had all my team fill out proper region and zone for all my accounts in the technology industry. Since that's the top priority vertical right now, can you get this into Salesforce? Basically, this is the information for this account, and this account goes to this region, this account goes to this zone, kind of information they were able to fill in. So if you see here, I mean, so far we don't have any external ID in Salesforce. Typically in enterprise, any enterprise, you will have that information. And if we have that external ID, it should be very easy to offset the data or update the data. Now we only have account name. So with account name, it is not easy to update the data back into Salesforce. First, we have to either get this ID, or we have to somehow populate those external IDs onto this and then use it. So for now, so let's use let's try to populate these IDs, and then we use update operation using data loader to load the data back into Salesforce. Let's try that. And for getting this thing, so let me launch my data loader. So the data loader would look something like this guy. Okay, actually, the icon. It's not responding. Some reason. Yeah. So my data loader, as I said, I already installed. And so right here, so I have this icon, like every time we install anything, it will show up like an icon. And once we double click that guy, it is a client application that I installed. And now we got that one. So basically it is, you are not able to see, you may not be able to see these letters here because I have this white black background. It is not showing. See here, the moment I select this guy, it is showing what operation it is. It is insert operation, and so there is update operation and upsert. Typically, whatever the operations that we use, so that those are all available there. And so if you want to export any data, you can have it. So now first we want to export the data. So the reason why we are exporting the data, we have names, but we don't have IDs. So we are trying to get the IDs. That's why we are exporting. Now it is a client application. It has to connect to our Salesforce instance. That's what we are doing right now. We say it is a production instance. All the args that we created are production ones. Now, when I say login, basically it goes to the browser, the OAuth. So it goes to the OAuth stuff. Let me try to get my user ID. So this is the OAuth. When we are trying to access this thing, so you see this on the radio button, I selected OAuth, and it is connecting to the ARC using the OAuth mechanism. And we can also use the password one. So now you see here login successful, and now I can go on. Now, so we want to extract accounts. So basically we can say what is the name that you want to give and where do you want to store the files. So let's say we store this one on the desktop. So we are storing on desktop. We selected account object. And also right now we are only interested in account name and account ID. So that once we get those, we can somehow do some VLOOKUPs or something, and we can map that initial file the user has given. So basically, let's take these two. And also, she mentioned these accounts uh, are only for technology type. So we can, instead of downloading all the accounts, let's limit the accounts where industry. Just to make sure the query is fine. So let's go back here. So let's, yeah, so we are getting those accounts. And also I think we can sort it here. Okay, so we got these guys. Let's take this query. Let's go back to our data loader and we can just give this guy. So now, okay, so yeah, the way you put the queries. I think you have to give this guy here, industry. So industry equals, yeah, this is actually easy tool, so we don't need to write anything. So now all we have to do is add condition, and that will add not for some reason this next button is not there. Let's see why is. Okay, account extract name field generated query select fields. Yeah, I mean, for some reason this one the next button is not available. Not sure what is the wrong with this guy, but let's see finish. Let's try one more time. We have chosen to perform export check. Okay. Yeah, so now it exported 14 records. I mean, we can see it here, or we can go back. We know we downloaded onto the data in desktop. Let's go check that file.
What was wrong, Srikanth?
I mean, I thought I don't know why that next button was not enabled. So I mean, it worked okay. So when I hit the finish button, so it was able to extract that thing. So this is the so this we got this file. I mean, this is the file that we exported from Salesforce. I mean, downloaded from Salesforce, and this is the file that we downloaded from that using the data loader. Okay, so now let's sort this guy using column. I mean the name. So now we have this Canson computer wise home net technology in Drive. Basically, we have all these things. Now it's a matter of just taking this guy and putting it here. I mean, otherwise we could have done some VLOOKUPs also. Since we have very less data, we could easily do this thing. So now we have this CSV file, the whatever the business gave us. So we were able to populate this ID. And now when we are doing update operation would go on the ID field. And since we don't have any external ID field, so that's the we will go by the ID field, and we'll try to update these records in Salesforce. And also let's look
And
at
this ID is unique for every record has a unique ID, right?
yeah. And if you see region and zone, I mean, just to make sure most all these fields, since we did not populate these, we created the fields, but we did not populate any values. So the most of these should be empty. Yeah, so these are all empty. This is the database, Salesforce database we are seeing. And now we also we extracted that information and we populated the corresponding columns. Where was that file? Yeah, so now we for those fields, we know what are the values that are going in here. So it's a matter of now going back to data loader, update this, I mean, submit these records, and then immediately we will see the results in Salesforce. Let's save this guy. And let's go back to data loader. This time we are going to use update operation. So that is the upside. Yeah, this is update. We'll take this one, and we will simply take the same file, the account extract, and which is a CSV file. We already saved that guy, so let's close this guy. And now we already said it is update. So it has 14 records. And now there is mapping. So if you recall data import wizard, we map the fields. Basically, whenever we have Excel, we have to tell which column has to go where. So since here it is name and ID field, let's say this guy. So basically, if you can say you can do auto match, and that will automatically populate. But if you want to map a little differently, you can simply drag and drop. So you can do that. But since in our case we don't need that guy, so we have to basically create mapping and automatic choose auto. So that is good enough for us. So what happened to the other fields? Okay, I think I selected the wrong file. So we have to have that region zone fields. So let's go back, fix that one, select the right file. So update operation. So select file. So I believe it is in the downloads. There was that file. So account extract users controller desktop. This should have all those fields. We want account update, account object. So 14 records. Why this file has 2 fields? Okay, this is not the one. We want that UCO file. Okay, yeah. So this one we need to save it as a CSV. And let's save. Yeah, fine. So let's make sure it is on the desktop now. Yeah, so now we have that CSV file. Let's select this file. So the object is still account. So those are 14 records. Now we have all those things. So now let's do the mapping, auto map. And now as you see here, region and zone fields. So the API names of those are little different. That's why it is not able to match. So now region field, we just bring it, drop it, and zone, so just drop it. So now we are mapping those fields. So now, I mean, if we think, okay, this is going to be every month you will get this kind of thing. So you would save that one and you can, the mapping file, so you can reuse it. Otherwise you have to do it every time. So this is the error file I was talking. So let's say where you want to store these errors. So for now, let's view desktop itself. And let's create some data. So it is going to store on the desktop. So select the directory where your success and error files will be saved. Okay, so now let's finish. So now you see there are 13 records successful and 1 record failed. So I mean, actually it is good. So we can see whatever we wanted to see, we can see on that error record also. Now let's go back to this guy, and here let's see success files first. And here, I mean, this is the one I was saying. So basically it added one column, status field, and it will say, okay, whether it was able to update that record or not. I mean, let's look at this record in Salesforce. Yeah, while that is loading, I can just reload this guy. I mean, you can see it right here. I mean, this is the advantage with these tools. I mean, even though Salesforce is taking time, you are able to see that information right here just by rerunning that query. So yeah, now in Salesforce also you can see that region, the APAC and zone. Basically, earlier these fields were empty and it was able to populate. Now this record it was not able to populate, and on the Salesforce side, I mean on the desktop it should have one error file. Let's look at this guy. So this is the status. I mean here it says error, and also it says why that is error. See this guy, basically it is trying to populate UK and Ireland, and that field Salesforce won't take it. Basically when we created that zone field, we must have said, okay, this should take only the values that we defined. That's why it is not able to take. And now the thing is now EMEA, so all we have to do is it should be, I think, UK region. We can change this record and we can resubmit it using data loader one more time. And let's look at that zone field, how we defined it. See, because of this option, it stopped. Restrict pick list to the defined values in the value set. So this is the value set. So for UK and Ireland, so what is this thing? So UK plus Ireland, that's the one that it was given. And let me control this. Yeah, so basically we gave UK and Ireland. So if we had given UK dash Ireland, whatever UK plus Ireland, it would have taken. So that was the error basically. I mean, with the data loader, you get that error file and you fix the error and you can resubmit it easily without any problem. Whereas if it is data import wizard, I believe we don't have that luxury. We could with this guy.
Any other limitations we have with data loader?
Yeah, it can only take 5 million records. If you have more than 5 million, so either you have to submit it multiple times. But tool itself is very good, and the tool, when you install the tool, basically it comes with little bit of where did I install? Yeah, so this, I mean, there are a lot of things that is possible with this guy, and so you can configure some properties, and basically you can write some scripts, and then that will help you automate the data loads.
And I mean, like both can be used for both standard objects as well as custom objects, right?
Yeah, and with the data loader, the other options that it can do, so data import wizard cannot do some custom settings and all, whereas this guy, so when we say upset, so if you see here, it is only getting few objects here by default. And whereas the moment I select this guy, it enables more records, show all Salesforce objects, and it will show little more objects. And I believe data import wizard doesn't have those that many options. Basically, data loader is definitely little more powerful than data import wizard. And then typically this is Postman, and this is also another client installed application. and you can do the same thing that we did using the data loader. I mean, first you have to, I would go a little fast with this guy because it may be little too much, I think. So, but here when you say get access token, it will go to it will go to org and it will try to connect like how we did with the data loader. First you have to authenticate. So here it is asking, okay, hey, some Chris-Soft data loader is trying to access Salesforce on behalf of Postman. So do you want to allow this guy? So you see here this Salesforce API collection for Postman. So that is the one, this guy. So basically this, there is a connected app and all. So, and because of that, it is trying to access and the user has to give access. And once we approve access, it will go back to Salesforce. The Postman, it will say authentication is complete and it will generate an access token. And access token is nothing but an entry into the system once you authenticate. So we say, okay, yeah, I got the access token. Now, if I say I want to create a job into Salesforce, I'm using the bulk V2. So here, so let's say if I say I want to insert leads, immediately it is going to Salesforce and it created a job here. So the same arc, the multiple things you can do. Same thing you can achieve with multiple ways. That's what I'm trying to say. And here you see here, so 1020. So we got a job, but we only, with the bulk V2, you have to create a job, then you have to submit file. So there is a little bit of work that we need to do with this guy. But this is also very powerful. So once you create that guy, so you have to say which job ID, and for the job you have to submit the file. I think we have CSV files on there.
Srikanth, as an admin, do we use this or it's just more of an information?
Yeah, more of information. There is no limit saying, okay, which one you use, which one you not. So, if you know more tools, that is good for you. That's it. So, it is definitely not a developer tool. We are not writing any code or anything. We are just leveraging an application here.
Okay, so we are leveraging the bulk V2.
Yeah, so bulk V2 is more powerful. Since I started the presentation with multiple options, what we can do. I was just showing. So this is bulk V1. This click one, that's the one I showed you some files where you can do all that automation. I have used pretty much all of this. So in my work. So initially when I start with import wizard, then I moved on to workbench, data loader. Data loader is the easiest one and the most convenient for everybody. And the workbench is another one. So potentially you can use workbench. So this is another thing. So when you try to access everything, so first when you try to go, it will say, okay, which Salesforce org you want to connect. And so here you see this guy, it says workbench is asking you to connect, and this is my ID. Since I already authenticated from my browser, basically browser session, it will take my login and it is asking whether I want to allow or not. So from here, basically, if you want to insert data, upsert data, and you can pretty much use the same thing. You can give an object name and you can choose your file, and you can pretty much do the same thing again and again. Similar things. It's the same process, different tool. Let's see.
What do you suggest?
Data loader is definitely the easiest one. So to start with, it's better to use data loader.
Okay. And will that do the job for an admin?
Yeah. So here your mapping. Based on the tool that you use, the UI and those things will be different. So once you are comfortable with it, so you should be able to. you are good to go.
Mhm.
So that's that one. Let's go quickly. I will show a few more things and we can end the day. So, so this is another scenario we're talking. So basically one employee leave the company and so there is another employee that will take over. So here Phil Smith is no longer with the company. Matt Wilson is taking over all his accounts, contacts, opportunities. So just take care of this. So first we have to, I mean, there are multiple ways you can do this thing. When you go look for Phil, so the moment you deactivate the user, so let's say here there is this active flag. This is the one. Once you deactivate the user, I mean, couple of things will happen. So whatever, how many number of licenses we have, so that number will be, let's say this org has 55 licenses, right? So the maybe there may be unused licenses, 1 or 2 left over. So that number will be incremented by 1 because this user license we are giving it back, and we can reuse that license. So this is very important thing. So when some employee leave the company, we I mean whoever is implementing Salesforce, they get one license back the moment they deactivated the user. So we have total licenses 55, used licenses 52, and now Phil Smith is leaving the company. So we are going to deactivate this user. Immediately we will get one license back. So let's say we deactivate, and this one basically remove user from opportunity teams. So yeah, if at all there are any, this user is on opportunity teams and all, we we can remove it, but this is not going to remove ownership on the accounts. So we deactivated the user. Now if we go back here, so this should be 53 now. I mean 51 now, user license. So yeah, this one becomes 51 and we have 4 more licenses. Now she also mentioned instead of Phil, there is Matt Wilson is taking over all his accounts. So now there is a mass transfer, some utilities that Salesforce has given by default. Mass transfer records. And the transfer accounts. So let's start with the accounts. So here we will say Phil Smith. So we want to transfer this to Matt. Okay. So basically we also want to transfer opportunities. And I mean, if you want to transfer closed opportunities, we can do, but ideally we don't want to, I mean, Phil close those, we will better leave it there. And open cases. Yeah, so let's move those. And before that, if at all we see any accounts, yeah, all these once account owner is Phil Smith, I mean, we can look at it from other list view. Let's find. So basically these are all the accounts that are owned by Phil Smith. Now we select all of these with single click and we will say transfer. And 27 accounts are transferred. Now if we go back, we refloat this guy. Yeah, so basically all these things, Matt Wilson became owner for those. And, so yeah, we that's how we can do some mass transfers. And
say if Phil Smith is leaving and we plan to move them all to Matt Wilson, right? The owner who creates are there any data rules that also get carried forward, or how is it?
what are data rules?
Like Phil Smith is the account owner, record owner. In this case, Phil Smith is the record owner, right? Like he creates
account owner. To be specific, account owner. We are transferring from accounts.
Okay.
So wherever Phil Smith is the owner, we are taking those accounts. And when we are dealing with accounts, we are also talking about opportunities. We are also moving opportunities. We are also moving cases. If Phil Smith owns any account or any opportunity and any cases, we are moving all those, open cases and open opportunities plus accounts to Matt Wilson.
Okay. I'm getting confused. So if he is the owner, he has more authority over the data, right? With regards to edit.
But he left the company, right?
Right. Yeah. So if you transfer it, will the authority also change to the new person?
Yeah. So basically, sole ownership will be on the new guy. So Phil doesn't have anything anymore because he left the company.
Okay, and all the sharing rules and whatever are in
Yeah.
place.
So everything, if at all he has done any manual sharings, so those ones, I think those are the ones it prompted whether you want to keep those things or anything. So let's say if this account team, if Phil manually gave any account team, so basically you want to keep them or you want to discard them. So those are those types.
Okay, everything will be retained,
Yeah, now since we didn't select, basically, now we lost it. If at all he has done any manual, he lost it. Now the Matt Wilson has to again share it. Because Matt Wilson may say, okay, hey, I have this trusted guy. In earlier, maybe John was working, collaborating with Phil Smith on all these accounts. Now maybe I want to work with Josh, so he will work with me. Josh and Matt Smith or Matt Wilson are the employees of this company, Cresoft, and those two guys will start working on it. Or maybe if Matt thinks, okay, whoever is John who was working with Phil, so if he wants to collaborate with him, so he can say, okay, keep accounting. That way, the John guy will be on the account team again.
But if you don't select the option, then you lose it, right?
Yeah. So
how do we know? Is there any way it prompts
no, it is a checkbox, right? So you want to keep it. If you want to keep it, you keep it. If you don't want to keep it, you unselect it.
Okay.
So now we also talked about backing up data. So periodically, let's say we made these changes and for some reason there is something wrong happened. Maybe we want to revert back. We cannot get every second backup, but we say maybe every night we want to back up. So Salesforce out of the box offers a little bit of backup options. I think it is storage or something. So data export, what it does, basically you can periodically schedule. So you can export the data. So, and also you can say what are all the objects that you want to export. So if you select include all data, so it will select everything. Or if you want to select only a subset of data, so you can select, let's say if you are only interested in account contact, and you can select those, or if you want to select everything, you can select that type. And if you want to select account attachments and all, so that way also you can do it. Then start export, and basically that will export everything, and it will have everything. A zip file will be ready, and you can come back and download it. So that is one option that Salesforce has given, but most of the companies they do have their own backup services, and I believe this one works every 7 days, I think. Let's see, or every nightly. Yeah, okay, weekly. Yeah, you can select every weekly. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, recurs every week. But potentially, Salesforce only allow you to export the data weekly once, and that may not be good for any enterprise. So that's why typically most of the companies, they implement their own backup strategy, and so they will have nightly using the data loader, or maybe using the APIs. They extract the data, they will have it ready in their somewhere else on AWS or somewhere. And so if at all there something goes wrong, potentially they will look up that data and try to restore it. And the Salesforce definitely don't have very good uh, data backup mechanism. And I mean, these are places where the Apex Engines partner would come handy, and they would make a lot of money. Basically, one of those guys is One Backup, or One Backup, I think that's the company. So they do a lot of these jobs, and they extract the data, they store the data into some AWS instances. And whenever something goes wrong, basically they will be able to extract the data, put it back. If organizations have to do the same thing, they have to build a lot of extracts. And also when something goes wrong, they have to basically uh, do all these things all by themselves. One Backup definitely is one of the leaders in this area. So, but their solution is definitely costly. Yeah. So that's the backup. I mean, obviously you can use the tools that we have gone through, and you can back up your data. So I think we are at 10:40, close to 10:40. We can stop here. We can see reports in the next class, reports and dashboards, and then we can get into the automation piece on Tuesday. So then potentially we will take a little bit of break for Thanksgiving, and we will meet after Thanksgiving. So we will meet next when Tuesday. We will meet Tuesday, and we will take little break, and we will meet after Thanksgiving. Okay.
Sunday and Tuesday, right?
Sorry.
We'll be meeting Sunday and
Oh, okay.
Tuesday.
So then, yeah, then we will meet Sunday and then Tuesday. So we will meet 2 more classes before Thanksgiving.
I'm just asking, Srikanth. I don't know your availability, but
No, I am available. So I thought of finishing this thing by at least these 8 modules before Thanksgiving, but looks like I mean, I don't want to rush it. That's why, I mean, meanwhile, you can also prepare some of these during Thanksgiving time if you have some time. So that way, if you have questions, we can regroup, and potentially we can wrap it up once we are back. Uh, and I mean, the expectation is we want all of you to be ready for at least developer, I mean, admin certification very soon. Yeah, we will regroup and we will decide how we want to proceed. But for now, so let's meet Sunday and Tuesday. So let's continue on those 2 days. Okay. All right then. So good night. I mean, yeah, I will try to send some modules your way for these things. and please go through it. I mean, get a feel for the tools, especially these are also daily activities as you are working. All right, guys. Bye.
Yep.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.